I'm Elizabeth at Literary Princess. If you are new here, welcome. I have a PhD in English literature with a focus on Victorian women novelists, and as you might expect, I love to read. I have for you my final kind of wrap-up video for 2025, and this is my reading stats. I am a dork, and I love spreadsheets and charts for books. I don't know why. It's just because I'm a dork. And I enjoy sharing them and showing off my pretty charts and stuff. So we are going to look first at my personal spreadsheet that I use, then at the Goodreads year in books, and then the StoryGraph year in books, and see what genres I read the most of, how many pages did I read, what countries I read the most from, all of that stuff. So let's jump in. Okay, so here we have my 2025 reading books and data. We have 3 tabs. We've got books read in 2025, statistics, and the 2025 reading goals. So we are going to go over to the statistics first because looking at the books read is just kind of overwhelming. So I read a total of 110 books this year. Now I did last year figure out how to put in books that I didn't finish, and I decided that I didn't want to keep doing that this year. So the total books and the books finished is the same. The total pages read is 34,494, which is actually down from last year, I think. The average days per book is 6.7. There were books that took me 1 day. There were books that took me 113 days, unabridged Journals of Sylvia Plath. So average page count is 313 pages. Average rating is 4.1 stars, and the average pages per day is 94.2. Again, there were days when I read no pages. So, hey. We're gonna look at the genre first because the chart and the table are right next to each other, and that's kind of nice. So, my most read genre is classics. It usually is, but this is kind of ridiculous. Like, almost half of the books I read were classics. And it looks ridiculous in the chart. I won't lie. My next most read genre was fantasy with 17. I should say I read 51 classics. But yeah, second most is fantasy with 17. And then tying for third is mystery thrillers and nonfiction with 14 each. Now, there are books that fall into multiple categories, so a lot of those classics also fall into mystery thrillers because they were Agatha Christie books. So a book can be in multiple genres. My least read genres were graphic novels, magical realism, and romance with 1 each. I'm actually surprised I didn't read more graphic novels because I generally like those. Romance, it's not surprising because I'm not a big romance person. And magical realism, I'm not overly surprised, was low. I did read 2 sci-fi books, which is shocking because that is not my favorite genre. So, books per month. My highest month was September with, I believe, 16 books. 16? Yes. And then my lowest were December and January, tied with 5 each. Honestly, that's all really impressive. I didn't fall into a slump at all this year, which is really nice. For star ratings, almost an equal number of 5 stars and 4 stars, which is shocking. There were 37 5-star books, which is so many, and then 38 4-star books. And then only 1 1-star and 1 1.5 star. So not too bad. I am generally good at picking what I like to read. Page count, I mostly read between 200 and 300, and then between 300 and 400. So if we go back up to the table, because it is easier to look at there, to be honest, there were 27 books between 200 and 300 pages, and 25 between 300 and 400. We had one book between 900 and 1,000. And I guess that would have been Camilla? Oh, no, because I didn't finish Camilla this year. No, so that would have been Tom Jones. I finished Camilla in 2026, not in 2025. And then the 800 to 900 one is our mutual friend, I believe. So for rereads versus new reads, I reread 9 books and read 101 new books to me. For format, I mostly read in print, 80%, 16.4% in audiobook, and 16.4 in ebook and 3.6 in audiobook. Does it tell me if I click on them? Yeah, 88 print books, 18 ebooks, and 4 audiobooks. For the source of the book, I am super happy with this, okay? My goal for the last 2 years actually has been to read more from my public library. And look at how much. 29.1% or 32 books were from my public library. Of course, the biggest category is ones that I bought with 37 books. Gifted 17 or 15.5%. And we've got free, meaning I borrowed it from a friend. Somebody was just like, here, have a book. I picked it up randomly for free somewhere. It was free on Kindle, that kind of thing. We've got 11 of those for 10%. We've got 4 books from NetGalley, and then 7 from the university library, and then 2 that I listened to on audiobook from Spotify. So 4 books were ARCs from NetGalley. I had said I wasn't going to do that anymore, and then as soon as I was done with my dissertation, I was like, wow, I want to review books again. So I'm hoping that there will be more than 4 of them for 2026. School reading, only 2 of the books that I read were for school, because by like the first half of the year when I was still like in school, I was pretty much done with my like big reading, and I was only picking up like articles or pieces of books instead of full books. I'd read all of the full books I needed to read, so that category is going to be completely gone in 2026. Publication date. So, shockingly, right, the highest is the 19th century with 21 books. The next highest is actually the first half of the 20th century, 1900 to 1969, with 15 books. That is a lot of Agatha Christie. And then we've got 14 books from the 2010s and 14 new releases from 2025. I feel like that's actually really high for new releases for me. And then my least read from is actually 2022 with only 1 book. Interesting. And then there were 2 books from the 1600s and earlier. One was Shakespeare, one was Sappho. So big range of time frames there. Country. So it is an exact even split between the US and Great Britain with 48 books each for 43.6% each. I'm American, so I read a lot of American books, and my degree is in English literature, so I read a lot of books from Great Britain. We've also got 9 books from Ireland for 8.2%, and then 2 each from Canada and Australia, and then 1 each from Greece, New Zealand, Turkey, Russia, and Belgium. Important to note that the number of books there is not going to add up to 110 because there are some books that had like an author and an illustrator and they were from different countries. There was also one author who is considered both American and Russian, so I put that for him. That is Vladimir Nabokov. I read Lolita this year. Over to my goals. Look I love seeing it filled out. It makes me so happy. Anyway, so I had a goal of reading 12 library books. I read 32, as we said. I'm so happy with that. Like, that's crazy. I was like, I want to read one a month. I read more than that. For 18th century novels, I wanted to read 12, and I read exactly 12, but not necessarily the 12 that I wanted to read. So I did not finish my final book for the 18th century novel project in 2025. However, I did read an additional book by Mary Wollstonecraft. I read both Mary and Mariah by her. So those both got put into this category. So it did come out to 12. For Victorian literature, I wanted to read 12 and read a total of 16. For other classics, wanted 5, got a total of 7. Other fiction, so it's not a classic or fantasy, basically. I wanted to read 5 and I read a total of 8. For fantasy, same thing. I wanted to read 5, read a total of 8. For nonfiction, wanted to read 5 and read a total of 12, which I feel like is really good. Poetry, I wanted to read 3 collections, and I did read 3 collections exactly. Rereads, I wanted to read 3. I've got 7 in here. Now, at least 2 books from the library were rereads, but because they're library books, they go in the library category. So that's why the rereads here does not match up with the rereads in the chart. And then there's picture books. I don't make a goal for picture books. I'm just like, I want to read a few picture books for Picture This, which is in April. And I read 5 books that were picture books. So, very fun. So, that is my personal spreadsheet. Let's go over to the Goodreads year in books. Now, for whatever reason, Goodreads has decided to do the page year with books and then also email you more detailed ones. Why? I don't know. So we're gonna look at both. So here's like the year in books page. They have me reading more pages. So they've got 36,700 as opposed to my 34. It would be good if I were, nope, wrong place. I know what I'm, 34,949. It's just sometimes the additions just don't match up. 110 books. So the shortest book, they've got Ghost Cat at 32 pages. So that's one of those picture books. Very well might be. They've got the longest as Pasquerel with 998 pages. I have Pasquerel on ebook in a huge bind up of different books by Ouida, so I have no idea how long it actually is. So sure, we'll go with 998. I don't know. Average book length is 333 pages, which is actually far higher than what I have in my spreadsheet of 313. Most shelved is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid with 3,551,203 people shelving it. So that's popular. And then we have Pasquerel, where 0 other people shelved it, and I am the only one that read it, apparently. Not surprising, my weird, obscure Victorian novels that nobody knows about. Average rating is 4.1, which is exactly what it is in my spreadsheet. The highest rated on Goodreads is The Golden Raven by Nora Sakavic with a 4.71 average. And then, like, that's it that they give you on the page. And I'm like, okay. But then they emailed me these things. I ended up, like, posting up on my Tumblr. So it's like, your year in books is here in the email. I'm like, okay. Why is this just not on the page? I don't know. Goodreads, what are you doing? So, 110 books read, and that apparently puts me in the top 5% of readers on Goodreads. Okay. Seasons changed, so did your shelf. So they've got exactly what I have in my own spreadsheet and charts for numbers of books read in each month. 36.3K pages read. Again, we've talked about that. That's much higher than what I have. My top genres were classics, fantasy, and horror. Now that's very interesting because horror is actually only at 9 in my spreadsheet. So that's really interesting that they have it as one of the top 3. But yeah, classics, shocking. My 5-star gallery was some of my favorite reads. Yes, those were all 5 stars. I finished 7 books nominated for the 2025 Goodreads Choice Awards, and none of them won. Just saying. And then I completed my challenge of 50 books more than twice over. So yeah, why is that not on the page and is instead in an email? I don't know. Okay. Over to StoryGraph. 110 books. They've got 37,502, so they've got even more pages than Goodreads had. Again, the editions just don't match up necessarily. The first book I read of the year was Holly by Stephen King, and the last book was The Christmas Hirelings. I always find this so interesting, the mood map. So lighter books push the line up and darker books push the line down. Now, usually what has happened in the last 2 years is that I like start off kind of high and then it just steadily goes down. It has done the opposite this year. So I guess because my first book of the year was Holly, which is, you know, about serial killers, we could only go up from there. So, You wandered through tales tinged with shadow, lingered over quieter, thoughtful moments, and chased clues down winding paths. Books and pages read per month. This is always really fun too, because it's interesting to see like how they line up. So the most books was September, and it is also the most pages, which is kind of surprising because it was shorty September. The one with like the biggest difference though is May, where I read 12 books, but 4,571 pages. And similarly March, which was March of the Mammoths, and I read Our Mutual Friend. That's always really fun. Yep, I met my goal. So they've got my top genres as classics, literary, fantasy, mystery, and historical. How many historical? I've got 9 works of historical fiction, according to mine. Literary, I find odd. They say I have 22, but I only have 5 for literary fiction. So it'll be interesting to see what they're counting as literary versus what I count as literary. They have my longest book as The Rich Husband by Charlotte Riddle. That is not accurate. It might be 922 pages in the 3-volume edition. I don't know if that's what they're counting, but I read a later 1-volume edition that came out in 1867 that was, 1 volume and therefore a lot shorter. And they have my shortest book as Little Red Riding Hood by Trina Shard Hyman at 32 pages, which I think is also what The Ghost Cat was. So yeah, the picture books are the shortest. Shocking. average length of the books I read was 335 pages with an average of 8 days each to finish. So they've got, again, higher page count, and also higher average books per day. The least time I spent was 1 day for After the Forest and for several others. Most time spent, 113 pages for the unabridged journals of Sylvia Plath. Yep, that is accurate. The authors I spent the most time with, Agatha Christie with 10 books. I've been reading the Poirot series in order and having a very good time. And then we go down to 3 books for Erica Johansson and Stephen King. Average rating was a 4.11, which is also what Goodreads and my personal one said. Oh, here's all my 5-star reads. That's quite a lot. Interesting. The numbers of ratings don't add up for the 5 stars versus, I wonder if I changed a rating somewhere. I must have. And then StoryGraph does allow quarter-star ratings, which I only use very occasionally, but I did do one here. Some months were better than others. November was my highest average rating, for an average of 4.43 stars per book. April was not my favorite month, with an average rating of 3.64. I wonder what I was reading in April. April was Picture This, and I'm pretty sure all of those got 4 stars. What else was I reading? September is the most pages read. Most shelved over on StoryGraph is also Daisy Jones and the Six with 595,189. And the least shelved is also Pasquarelle with 2 people rating it. So I guess more people on StoryGraph have read Pasquarelle than on Goodreads. My highest rated book was Mistress and Maid with 5 stars. Yeah, that's because it's like me and 2 other people over there that have read it. Explored 49 new authors, including Agatha Christie, Sarah Waters, and Daniel Defoe. So actually only one of those is a new author to me. But because I had read Agatha Christie and Daniel Defoe so long ago, they were not in my StoryGraph. So they were not actually new authors. 32 books that I read were part of a series. I revisited a total of 6 books. Again, that's not accurate because not all of the books I have read were in StoryGraph. I decided not to finish 8 books that I picked up this year. That sounds about right. 59 books were from my own shelves. That sounds like it might be accurate. I don't really know. I completed 1 reading challenge, which was the Victober one. And then I think that is everything over here. I do, however, want to go and look at the stats for the year because they let you click on the bars and like find out what books they were considering. All right, so they do like a mood chart over here. So 34 books that I read were dark, 33 were reflective, 33 were mysterious, and 32 were emotional. The least ones were inspiring and sad with 3 each. Pace, mostly medium paced, 53%, 15% fast paced, and 33 books, or 32%, that were slow. Even split between books between 300 and 500 pages and books that were under 300 pages. And then only 12, or no, that's 13. I can read. 13% were over 500. 83% fiction, 17% nonfiction. And then they have a much more detailed genre chart here. So what on earth are you people counting as literary? Okay, The Lamb. That was horror. This is nonfiction. I Who Have Never Known Men, that is literary. So is Lolita and Home and Lila and Yeah, Madonna and a Fur Coat and Gilead. Daisy Jones and the Six I would not call literary. Praying with Jane Eyre is nonfiction. Yeah, okay. I don't agree with their genre. I never do. I don't know why I would expect to, but hey. Format is not accurate because I don't pay attention. Most read authors, again, with Agatha Christie. All of the books I read were in English. I didn't read any in French. We already looked at this one and this one. So yeah, that's everything. Oh, those are my 2025 reading stats. I hope that was kind of interesting. Let me know down in the comments, what did your Goodreads year in books or StoryGraph year in books have to say that you found interesting? Do you find that you agree with the genres or disagree, or that it is accurate with the page count? Do you keep your own spreadsheets? Like, let me know, how do you keep track of your books? It's always so interesting because people have so many different ways. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up or subscribe to see more of my bookish content. It has been great chatting with you. I will see you soon. Bye.